What is up? Welcome into this Sunday late night edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. I'm Mike Renner, joined by none other than our resident Bengals fan, John Breech, tonight. And John, I want to start with this. Take us through the roller coaster of emotions that was a Bengals fan over the course of this weekend.
So let me tell you, Saturday night, the roller coaster is going up the hill. There's some zigzags. The Bengals go up 10-0. We are peaking, about to hit that first big hill where you throw your hands up in the air and you go nuts and you think it's all over. Then it's 19-17 and the Steelers are driving to win the game, and you see that half the track is missing. You think you're surely going to go off it and die. Somehow you ramp over it because Russell Wilson, somehow 10 years into the NFL, does not know how to manage a clock. Pat Freiermuth decides he can't catch a ball, so they win that game. And then, Mike, let me just tell you that roughly 98 seconds into the Broncos-Chiefs game, all hope was lost. It didn't take long there. It was over. I gave up. I waved the white flag, and I said, all right, well, I get to hang out with Renner tonight, so at least tonight's not a total loss. You're
on the park bench outside after the roller coaster, just vomiting into your hands, basically 10 minutes in that game. I mean, it was a joke. I'm like, the 1 p.m. slate. So yesterday late night, that game was great. 1 p.m. slate, ultra dramatic. I mean, I'm watching the Commanders and the Packers game, like simultaneously. You get the McLaurin catch, the field goal from Chicago to win it. Those games happen. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe we get a cool 4 p.m. slate too. Maybe we get a good Sunday night football too. No, there wasn't an exciting moment the rest of the day. The Chiefs laid down as well as I've seen anyone lay down in the NFL. Like, if you're going to bench your starters, that's how you do it, right? You play nobody who's even going to see the field in the playoff game. It was spectacular to watch. But
my theory, Renner, is that when the Chiefs got stuck at the airport on Saturday, they just got off the plane and sent some airport employees, and that is who played in the game, because that's the only way you lose 38-0 like that.
Dude, there were names that I am embarrassed to say had not heard of until today. And that's on me. I'm an NFL analyst. I get it, but like, they were digging deep into the bag there. We're going to get to that. It's one of our 6 points. We're going to get right into it. But first, we got to start with the battle for the 1 seed in the NFC. Vikings, Lions. The build-up all week was, offense. We thought it was going to be an offensive explosion. The Lions' defense is beat up. Vikings have been lighting up scoreboards the last couple of months. Sam Darnold's their quarterback of the future. How much are they going to pay him? Is he going to get $50 million a year? That's all the conversation heading into this. And the Lions just locked down this Vikings offense better than anyone has since, the Jaguars game way back a couple of months ago. They win going away 31-9. What were your immediate takeaways from this kind of dead fish of a Sunday night game?
Well, kind of that Sam Darnold is going to be so mad at the Lions because he's probably just cost them $10 million. I don't know if you're the Vikings that you can give Sam Darnold $50 million when he has to play the Lions twice a year. Look, when I picked this game earlier this week, I picked the Lions to win 30-20. I didn't think it would be a total blowout, but double digits. And my big issue was Sam Darnold. I just thought that he has never played in a game of this magnitude. You don't play in games this big when you play for the Jets. And yes, the Vikings did play in some big games earlier this season, but those aren't playoff caliber games. He had just never been in this situation. So you don't know what you're going to get. And I think we all saw we got a jittery Darnold who just couldn't handle the situation. Now, is Kevin O'Connell going to figure out how to beat those jitters out of him before the playoffs start? You better hope so, because the Vikings aren't going to go far if Darnold plays like this. I think that was their biggest issue. I mean, it wasn't completely on him. The second half, the Vikings defense couldn't stop anything that Detroit was doing. And really, Detroit played like a desperate team. They needed the bye more than the Vikings did, and they played like a team that needed the bye more than the Vikings did. So I really think it was Sam Darnold. That was my main issue. And then it was weird that Kevin O'Connell, it seemed like he got brainwashed into thinking, I have to play Dan Campbell football to beat Dan Campbell. Going for it. You're the analytics guy, Mike, and I'm sure you agreed with every time they went for it on fourth down. But when you're a team that doesn't do that, the Vikings only had 10 fourth down attempts all season going into that game. I don't think it's smart to change your coaching philosophy on the spot because you're putting your team in a situation that they're not used to being in. Campbell trusts his guys to get those fourth downs. Sam Darnold on fourth down looked lost every time they were doing it, looking at O'Connell like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we going for it on fourth down? Kick the field goal. So I just think that if that's your philosophy, that's fine. But it's hard to just switch on the spot and expect your team to be able to react to that. So I think the fourth downs they weren't able to get inside the 5, and just Darnold's overall play were my 2 big takeaways.
That is a big part of like the secret sauce of Dan Campbell and the Lions going for so many fourth downs. It's just that like when a fourth down comes up, it's another down to them. As you saw with the Vikings, like you had some panicky fourth downs there from Sam Darnold. He had Jordan Addison on a slant, wide the freak open. And he's looking every which way, not at him, on that fourth down at the goal line. That would have been a go-ahead touchdown. I can't remember exactly the time of the game, but that's like a play that the Detroit Lions consistently execute. Their fourth downs, again, it's just another down to them, but you see Sam Darnold in those situations panicking. So I do agree on that point that the analytics would say go for it. It's a situation that you're going to have to put up points to be the Detroit Lions. I don't care how good your defense is. They saw that at the end of the game. They had to get to the 30s to match them. Didn't obviously come close to that. But I do just think that Sam Darnold, this was what everyone warned you about with him. And it's crazy. You said he probably cost him $10 million. I thought that was like tongue in cheek at the time, but I'm thinking about it. I'm like, no, he cost himself probably like $10 million with this game. Like he has only this to prove himself for his next contract. And it's going to be a big contract after how he performed. But when you lay a dud of this magnitude on this sort of stage, which was essentially a playoff game, because it would have been gotten you to the second round of the playoffs here and there instead of having to go on the road, like it's almost going to be darn near impossible with the strength of the NFC to get through as a fully road team right now.
Yep.
All 3 games. So yeah, Sam Darnold, like he may have cost himself $10 million. And this was truly an egg. This was last I checked on PFF, and they released their live grades now this year, 37.6 overall grade. Ironically, his lowest since week 18, 2022, when he did against New Orleans Saints, and one of the top 5 lowest of his entire career. So it wasn't just bad for Darnold. It was one of the worst. So tough to see.
That's brutal. And you know what? They even got dumb mistakes that you haven't been seeing from the Vikings, like getting the field goal right before halftime. And then Will Reichert kicking the ball out of bounds and giving the Lions a free field goal because they had such a short field to work with. You just can't make dumb mistakes like that when you are playing the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and Detroit now, I mean, we'll get to the playoffs and basically go through the matchups of the first round. But if you get the 1 seed, I don't care what conference you're in the driver's seat in this year just because it's so much easier. I do like that it is now easier that winning the regular season gives you a pretty strong advantage. I do think there needs to be that in the NFL compared to what it used to be. And it is very strong. And again, especially in this NFC playoff picture, because I think any team can beat anyone at any given moment. But this Lions defense now, not to say it's fully back, not to say they're fully the defense they were maybe early on this season at full strength or even close to it, not susceptible to giving up 30 any given week. But we've seen that they still believe that there's not like after how bad they've looked last month, there was no give up to them in this game.
Yeah, not at all. And that was really kind of surprising that you see. It really made you feel better about Dan Campbell's decision to play everyone on Monday night against the 49ers. And I think really looking back on that, I absolutely agree with it, even though I feel like a lot of people were on the fence, including myself. But it was, hey, look, our defense is struggling. We need to get those guys out there. I need everyone playing because we got to worry about next week. And playing this week is going to help us win next week. And so you want to get those defensive players as many reps as possible when you don't know who is going to be on the field because you're dealing with so many injuries. And I mean, considering what the Vikings offense has done this season, the Lions defense just played an absolutely spectacular game. When you're holding Justin Jefferson under 55 yards, I think Jordan Addison got goose-egged. I mean, it was pretty ridiculous how well that Lions secondary played, especially when I think they were giving up like the 5th or 6th most passing yards going into this week.
Yeah, I got to give a hat tip to Brian Branch in this one. He was all over the place. And the fact that he's able to, on third downs, either go down in the box and play man coverage on, he had a rep against Jordan Addison, where he's in man coverage, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And then he goes and has another rep against TJ Hawkinson. So a guy like 2 different body types, 80 pounds of difference, 0.3 of a 40, like completely different types of wide receivers. And he can lock both of those guys down. If you have a player like that, you could still have good defense. To me, he should be right in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. I know picks get it for DBs, and you have to basically have a ton of interceptions to do it. But he's about as good as any defensive back in the NFL right now. So hat tip to him in that one. All right, let's get to point 2, though. Another game that was a laugher. The AFC playoff picture, we were thinking, who's going to be the last team? Was it going to be the Bengals? Was it going to be the Dolphins? They obviously fell to the Jets. Or was it going to be the Denver Broncos? Well, about 5 minutes into that game, we knew it was going to be the Denver Broncos. An absolute laugher, 38-0. Bo Nix goes 26 of 29, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Truly should have had a fifth. He underthrew a wheel route right before the half that was wide the F open. That would have been a walk-in touchdown. Should have been 27-29 with 5 TDs. He now has the second most passing touchdowns of any rookie in NFL history. But my gosh, when you see some of the names, the leading receiver for the Chiefs in this one, Nico Remigio and Peyton Hendershot, as everyone knew was going to be their leading receivers here going to the Chiefs. I mean, this is how you bench starters. If you're going to bench your starters, they benched every single guy who was a meaningful player on that football team. And well, that's what it looks like when you play all backups against a real NFL football team.
Yeah, Renner, you said it before that you don't even know a couple of these names. And when I see the Chiefs offense take the field for the first time and I don't know a couple of the names, like I didn't know who Remigio was. You just know there's no way they are winning. It's a 0% chance. I thought Carson Wentz might give the Chiefs a fighting chance. I was thinking maybe we'll see some Carson Wentz magic. Will harness the last of the fairy dust left from 2017 and throw it at the Broncos in an effort to kind of say to every other NFL team, hey, I'm here. Somebody come sign me. And that absolutely did not happen. Carson Wentz was terrible. But again, when you're throwing to guys that Carson Wentz probably doesn't even know, it is tough to run your offense. And really, it's tough to learn anything from this game. Bo Nix, like you said, put up spectacular numbers, but playing against a practice squad, essentially. So I'm not sure what we learned about the Broncos, except that they're going to the playoffs for the first time in 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, this caught on faster than I think anyone could have guessed. I don't think anyone had this turning around this quickly for Denver. But not only has Bo Nix looked, wise beyond his years at the quarterback position, but this defense is one of the best in the NFL this year. So I don't fully expect them to make noise in the AFC, but I would have wanted to, from an entertainment perspective, wanted the Cincinnati Bengals in there. But I do think this Denver Broncos team was for real this year. They had their opportunities. They had their opportunity the very first game around the Chiefs. Like, they can beat good teams. So even though I don't think the matchup against the Bills is great for them, admittedly, I do think they're a team that's capable of hanging with them when it's all said and done. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get 2 points, 2 through 6 of our 6 points. We're going to go for 2, and then we're going to break down our favorite games for next weekend's playoff picture right after this.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
All right, point 3. It is Jerod Mayo and the New England Patriots not only winning against the Buffalo Bills, but losing the #1 overall pick and their jobs in the process. Jerod Mayo fired after 1 season as the Pats go 4-13, and they now fall to pick number 4 in this year's NFL draft. Do you think, I'm just going to start with this. Do you think that they could have, and now they tried to, right? They benched Drake May and played Joe Milton. If they would have done what the Chiefs did, do you think the NFL would have stepped in? If they would have really just gone and said, scout team, you're out there this week?
Well, I think the bizarre thing here is that the Bills didn't try at all. So, even if the Patriots had done what the Chiefs did, I'm not sure they still wouldn't have won. Because, look, if you are Jerod Mayo and you're saying, you know what, we're not going to let Drake May play. He's going to throw 1 pass, and we're going to put Joe Milton in. He's getting his first serious time, and he probably just assumed they were going to lose. There's no way we're going to win with Joe Milton playing quarterback. Joe Milton goes out there, doesn't look bad, outplays Mitchell Trubisky, who, again, another quarterback who I thought might look okay in one of those backup roles where you're thinking, if he ever wants to be a starter again, he needs to play well in this game just to get some looks, maybe get invited to a training camp. But no, Trubisky was horrible. And the Patriots, this was probably the most bizarre day in the last 5 years for them. And this is a team that got rid of Brady and fired Belichick. I mean, you go from thinking you have the #1 pick, You're starting a rookie quarterback who just doesn't play. And then it all ends with you not having number one pick and the head coach gets fired. So, I mean, this was a whirlwind day for Patriots fans.
It really was. And I do think the NFL probably would have stepped in if they went full scout team for whatever, competition committee, trying to protect the shield sort of stuff. But they should have, truthfully. I mean, going from number one to number 4.
How do you prevent that, Renner? What would, if you're the competition committee and you're making rule changes in March?
I mean, I think they would just get fined. I think it would just be they would take away draft picks for. I think they can do that, right? Just based off of arbitrary. I mean, it would be like a lawsuit and whatnot. But I think there would have been some sort of litigation to that matter. That being said, number 1 to number 4 is basically the difference is they're probably still going to draft the same guy they were going to draft. It's just they're not going to trade back now. They're not going to get the haul they would have at the number 1 overall pick for someone wanting to go up, get one of the quarterbacks, and the picks that come with that when that's the case. But let's move on to Jerod Mayo a little bit and talk about him getting fired. To me, I know there's conflicting opinions on this. My take was they know now after going 4-13, but seeing how good Drake May is, they know they can, I don't want to say upgrade, but they can get a name at the head coaching position. Last offseason, with how bad they were and where they were drafting and how little talent was on that roster, you weren't getting a name, right? You weren't getting a top-end talent. That's why you promote Jerod Mayo from within. You weren't getting a guy in there who has either had a track record of proven success or is one of the hot names on the topic. They just weren't going to get that guy. Now you can. And all signs sort of point to Mike Vrabel being that guy who will be probably the next Patriots head coach. And obviously, coach of the year, a guy who's had proven track record of outperforming his talent, had the number 1 seed the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl back 2021. So there's a lot to like about where they're at now as opposed to where they were last year. And so it's not necessarily a moratorium on Jerod Mayo. It's not necessarily passing big judgment on him, but I don't think he was any great shakes either. Like he had his issues with the locker room. He had called his run defense soft. He said, you'll have to, you said it, I didn't, about his OC when it asked about not using Drake May in the running game. So there were issues there, and now they can just do better, is my thinking about where the Patriots are making this move.
It's interesting, though, because I feel like Jerod Mayo probably almost feels backstabbed here because remember when he got hired, there was he had the succession plan written into his contract to take over for Belichick. So if you're Mayo, you're thinking, I'm waiting for Belichick to retire or get fired so I can become the head coach and be here indefinitely and indefinitely last exactly 1 season. But I think the point you just made is a good one. You can't call out your team all year. This isn't a player calling out another player in the locker room. Once you're the head coach, you got to be careful about what you say, which kind of ironic that Belichick was more careful than any head coach about what he says in public. And so when you're throwing your team under the bus, that's how you lose your locker room. And you look at the Patriots, they weren't absolutely horrible this year. I mean, 4-13, they had a couple overtime losses. This team could have won 7 or 8 games. But I do think that, like you just said, you have Drake May, you have what looks like a franchise quarterback. So this becomes a juicy gig. And all you have to do is figure out how to compete with the Bills because the AFC East isn't a great division. So even if you're playing for second place, that can still get you in the wild card round. So I think the Patriots opening will be attractive.
That is a good point because I do think if you're just looking at the rest of the division, they're on the downslide. The Jets, the Dolphins, Bills obviously up here, but they're paying so much to some of the pieces on that roster that it's going to be difficult for them to maintain that. Obviously, Josh Allen's great, but that roster is going to have difficulty cobbling together over the years. And it's not like they've drafted amazingly in recent years. So there is opportunity to be had there if Mike Vrabel wants to come back to the NFL. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't think it's a terrible move from the Patriots perspective, and I truly think they will be getting one of the bigger names on the market. Let's get to point 4, and it's my Packers. Jordan Love, Christian Watson, in what turned out to be meaningless Week 18 game with the Commanders winning and obviously relegating the Packers to the 7th seed in the NFC. Both go down. Christian Watson, a knee. That one looks serious. Jordan Love, an elbow. Reportedly not nearly as serious. Could have actually even entered the game if it had been more meaningful at the end, if it would have been like a playoff game. But still, it's not like you want your throwing elbow being injured a week prior to what is now a massive showdown against the Philadelphia Eagles, a week 1 rematch. This one hurt. John.
Yeah, I'm sure you cringed when both of those happened, and you certainly do not want to hear your starting quarterback say, oh, I couldn't feel my fingers after the game, because, hey, it helps to feel your fingers when you're throwing the football. So the Packers sound confident that Jordan Love's going to be okay, but that's still not something you want to be dealing with going into a wild card game, especially when it's a problem you could have avoided if you would have just accepted the 7th seed and saying, even if we win, we might not get the 6th seed. So why not just give everyone a week off? And I think the funny thing here is every coach has a different philosophy on how to handle this. And I think Sean McVay did it the best. And we'll see, because maybe they lose in the first round of the playoffs. But he said, I don't care if I play the Lions or Vikings in the wild card round. I would rather give my guys a week off to get healthy. If we get the 3rd seed, with 3rd seed, with the 4th seed, with the 4th seed, I don't care if we win or lose in week 18. I just want Matthew Stafford a week off, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. And so if there's not going to be a big difference, I think it makes a lot of sense to rest your guys. And the Packers would have been in that situation where it does make sense. So it was surprising to see them out there. And then see Malik Willis get banged up too. So now your top 2 quarterbacks. So Renner, are you more or less confident about winning in the wild card round than you were before this game kicked off against the Bears?
I think they could still sneak one. I don't think they have any chance of sneaking through the way they did last year. And they blew out the Cowboys. We're right on the precipice of being the 49ers. I don't see that happening. One, because Jair Alexander's here. I thought once it was announced he's not coming back this year, their secondary is just not good enough, in my opinion, to deal with what they're going to face in the rest of the NFC. But to me, the half-ass strategy of let's play some guys half and then bench them and then no Josh Jacobs down the stretch, but we have Jordan Love warming up on the sidelines, maybe coming back in the game. It's like, what are we doing here? If you're gonna let him play, give him a series. One series, stay fresh, get him out, gone. Or let him play the whole game and play to win. The half-assing, some guys are out there, a lot of key guys were still out there trying to win that game. But some of your bigger key guys weren't actually out there. To me, that's the complete wrong thing to do. Do either what the Chiefs do either what the Bills did, where you give them one drive, or play the guys the entire game to win like the Chargers did, where the Chargers had a pretty meaningless game in a similar situation, and they went all out and tried to win. I don't understand the thought process there. And now they are down one of their best wide receivers and not down, but banged up at the quarterback position on the thing he uses to throw the football. So I do think it's worth questioning what the heck Matt LaFleur is doing this week. It just is.
And he usually makes the smart decision. And you know what? The funny thing is the Commanders were the other team that did the same thing, where they said, you know what? We're going to let Jane Daniels play the entire first half. And I don't know if that was the original plan or Dan Quinn saw him get sacked 4 times, take multiple big hits, and was like, all right, we're going to take Jaden out because we kind of need him next week. So he kind of did the half-ass thing that Matt LaFleur did, where I'm going to play some of my starters some of the time, some of them part of the time, some of them all the time. I have no idea what I'm doing. Just if I call your name, go in the game. So it was really bizarre that both coaches went that route. Like you said, either bench them or don't bench them.
Yeah, I think that one was more, oh, shoot, our O-line can't block right now. I think that was that. They're just we cannot have Jaden get, because they didn't pull Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin makes the game-winning touchdown. They didn't pull any other star players. The Packers pulled Josh Jacobs. I'm trying to think of who else they pulled in that game, but they were not trying to give their best after that. The Commanders were putting everyone else out there, and shoot, Marcus Mariota went out there and balled with those guys. So comeback win for him. So it was a difference of philosophy. Packers may be paying for it next week. Let's get to point 5. Backup quarterbacks, 14 of them, I believe, played this past weekend. Did any of them show you anything to get you excited about maybe next season? If someone might trade for them, maybe they're a cool backup going forward, maybe in free agency, they're a name to watch. Anyone fit that bill for you?
I will say I was impressed with Jimmy Garoppolo. Look, the Rams had nothing, or they did have something to play for, but Sean McVay didn't care about it and benched everyone. So the Rams were set up to lose, and they still almost won the game. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo out there throwing for 334 yards. His leading receiver was Jordan Whittington. So, You have Garoppolo out there just with the practice squad just slinging it on a Seahawks defense that had everyone out there. So I was pretty impressed with that. But I think that has a lot to do with Sean McVay. You look at what he's done the past 2 years. 2 years ago, it was Baker Mayfield slinging it in McVay's offense toward the end of the season. Boom, he becomes a starter in Tampa Bay. Now he's got in the playoffs 2 years in a row. Last year, was slinging the ball in the season finale for the Rams. Carson Wentz, yeah. They win the game, and now he's got a backup job in Kansas City. So I think Garoppolo showed enough that a team maybe that is going to have a rookie quarterback next year signs him as that veteran kind of steady hand who is the backup. But if he needs to start in week 1 or week 2, kind of like Jacoby Brissett and Drake May in New England. So maybe Garoppolo does that. And then I don't want to steal your boy, but I thought Tanner McKee looked pretty good too.
Oh, yeah. Tanner McKee is my boy, so I can't speak on him. I was needlessly high on him going into the draft. I had him as a top 50 player. So I was pretty excited. And so I was actually I was honestly a little disappointed. I thought he'd be a little bit better. So I'm kidding. No, he looked good. There were some issues to his game that I'm still I'm not completely buying in on, but as like a backup, he showed a lot. He can go in there and maybe win you a few games. I mean, truly just did win you a game there as a backup. The guy I saw, and I'm like, that was kind of insane, was Joe Milton. I mean, Joe Milton, if you watched him at Tennessee ever, he missed so many throws. He was one of the least accurate quarterbacks to get drafted in the past half decade. The guy's a cannon, unbelievable tools, not accurate. In this game, some of the throws he made, and he had a touchdown called back. That was one of the best plays I've seen from a quarterback all year, where he was scrambling left and just put mustard on a 30-yard throw.
Into the front corner. Yeah, that was insane.
The thing never went above his head. The thing was below his head the whole time and caught by a wide receiver. Unbelievable. He didn't miss a lot. He went 22 of 29, 241 yards, 1 touchdown. If you're the Patriots and you got that guy as your developmental backup, I'm pretty darn excited if he's doing that as a rookie. I'll also throw out there that Trey Lance, not that he was impressive, not that it was anything great, but it was not the disaster we kind of would expect for a guy who couldn't beat out Cooper Rush, right? Or couldn't even play over Cooper Rush when he was the top 3 overall pick in the draft. And it was as physically gifted as him. And he's younger than Bo Nix, this guy. Trey Lance he never played football. He going into this year had fewer dropbacks in his high school, college, and NFL career than Tom Brady did his last season with the Tampa Bay Bucks. The guy has not played football. He's always been in run-heavy situations. He just needs to play. And so for him I thought his pocket movement was great. I thought his arm really showed off. Now he had some bad plays. And again, it wasn't good by any means. But I just can't believe they were playing Cooper Rush over this guy when he would be worth developing on the bench. I know Mike McCarthy's trying to save his job, and that's obviously why he played Cooper Rush. But if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm kind of pissed right now that he was doing that and that I didn't get to try to develop this guy who just literally needs to play some football over the past couple months. So that's the one who I was Trey Lance wasn't absolutely terrible. So the backup quarterbacks, though, it was actually fun to watch those guys. I don't know what you thought.
And they had nothing to lose. That was the thing with the Cowboys. You literally had nothing to lose. Put Trey Lance out. You traded for him. You gave up a 4th-round pick for him. See what he has. It just didn't make any sense. And then you finally bench Cooper Rush when he has $250,000 on the line. So you look like Scrooge McDuck out there stealing money out of his pocket. My God, Jerry Jones. That's the Grinchiest Grinch move. Just ridiculous. I'll throw out one more name too, Marcus Mariota, which I think is a more testament to Cliff Kingsbury. So if you're a team out there thinking about hiring Cliff Kingsbury, you've seen what he's done with Jaden Daniels, and now they throw Mariota out there, and he looks just as good. He was out there slinging passes. He only threw 3 incompletions, I think 15 of 18, 161, 2 touchdowns, and he was solid. It was just is the Commanders' offense just unstoppable with no matter who's running it? And if it is, then that's a testament to how well Cliff Kingsbury's done this year. So Cliff looked good.
You know who's happiest, though, about Marcus Mariota balling out today? I'll give you one guess about who you think is the happiest about Marcus Mariota balling out, besides Marcus Mariota, obviously. Chicago Bears fans.
Bears fans.
Because they want to denigrate Jaden Daniels at all costs and justify that they made the right move for Caleb Williams. They are so happy that Marcus Mariota comes in there and looks good. They can point to his game against Carolina earlier this season and this game and say, look, Mariota's stats are literally better than Jaden's when he's in the game. We made the right choice. It's all the offense. No fault on Caleb. Bears fans are just eating it up that Marcus Mariota went off in this one. Let's get to point 6. Pittsburgh Steelers. We got to talk about them because they are a playoff team. I don't know if Steelers fans know this because over the past month, they haven't looked like it. They are now losers of 4 straight games after starting 10-3. They've averaged 14.3 points per game over that span. Russell Wilson, his record is actually worse in terms of winning percentage than Justin Fields was. Do they come playoff time now? And they face the Baltimore Ravens, so they're going to have to put up some points. They're going to have to do something more than they've done the last time against them. Do they switch to Justin Fields, put him in the game more? They're going to have to move the ball on the ground because they cannot move the ball through the air right now.
So it's funny you asked this. I was on a Zoom watching the game with some friends who are both Bengals fans and Steelers fans. So it was a little group trash talking session. And both sides agreed that the Steelers should have gone with Justin Fields in the second half of that game. At that point, you're only playing for seeding, so you're not playing for a ton. The Steelers only put up 75 yards in the first half against a Bengals defense that just anyone can move the ball on.
Yeah.
And so at that point, why are you not just seeing where Justin Fields is, how he's still doing, so that if you do want to give him some playing time in the postseason or give him a few packages, it's there. You give him a whole half to kind of get ready for that. So I'm surprised they didn't give Fields a look. I think it's just because Mike Tomlin doesn't trust him. But to kind of just put into perspective how bad the Steelers offense was, they only put up 193 yards against the Bengals. That was the first time in 10 years the Bengals held a team under 200 yards. The last time the Bengals held a team under 200 yards, it was Johnny Manziel's first career start for the Cleveland Browns. So the Steelers were playing Manziel-esque football out there. So that's when you know you kind of hit rock bottom. So, I mean, I don't know what you do except cross your fingers and hope that your defense can win a field goal battle like they did in that first game with the Ravens, because that feels like their best shot to win. Their defense is good enough. If the offense could just score 24, 27 points, I think they can win. But can they do that in the playoffs? I don't know, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think they can. Like right now, you said Pat Freiermuth earlier couldn't catch. Like George Pickens, truly, I don't know what he was doing out there. 2 drops, couple others that were like catch point plays that Pickens is known for that he does not haul in. 7 targets in that game, 1 catch for 0 yards. He's obviously a head case, and he had the hamstring issues before, but he's fully healthy and still not doing a damn thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if he's not, like if he's not going to be checked in there, your passing offense has a 0% chance of doing anything against this Baltimore Ravens team. Their secondary has been so much better over the past 2 months, truly one of the better ones in the NFL with how they've been playing of late. You're not going to pass the football. If that's the case, you got to just run the rock then. Like you're going to have to do something. I would turn it over to Justin Fields at this point. I know it was ballsy to make the move in the first place, and I do trust Russell Wilson more as a passer, but there's just no passing game to be had right now, in my opinion. So I don't know. I honestly, like, I still think they're screwed either way. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. But I do just think like Fields probably gives them their best chance.
Could you imagine if Tomlin tomorrow on Monday says, all right, we're going back to Justin Fields. That's it.
I hope he does. He's unimpeachable though. I mean, you can't argue. To me, this was probably a team. I mean, they obviously, I don't think they were as good as the Bengals. This was not a team that deserved to be in the playoffs here when it was all said and done. The whole entire year, I was like, they're kind of smoke and mirrorsing it offensively, but I'm not going to argue with it. But you just look at talent on this roster. It is not there, whether it's along the offensive line, whether it's any wide receiver past George Pickens, whether it's, their cornerback group. It's just, they have big issues on this roster, but 10-7, another playoff berth. But people are going to talk about Mike Tomlin's playoff record. It's like, this isn't the playoff team. So if they're losing the first round of the playoffs. It's like, yeah, they weren't supposed to. They
already overachieved.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go for 2 here. What is your parting shot from week 18, the end of the regular season?
Mike, my parting shot is that the Bengals only have the Bengals to blame for not making the playoffs. All I saw on Twitter all day was Bengals fans complaining that the Chiefs just benched everyone and gave up. Well, guess what? The Bengals had plenty of chances to get to 10 wins. Let's go back to week 1, a loss to the New England freaking Patriots. You can't lose to the Patriots and expect to go to the playoffs. Week 2, a 1-point loss to the Chiefs where your kicker misses an extra point. That's another win you threw away. There's 2 losses to the Ravens, 35-34. You go for a 2. The ball is in your best player's hand, Joe Burrow. You can't get 2 points. Another loss you threw away. You blew a double-digit fourth-quarter lead in the other game against the Ravens and then lost in overtime. We all saw the Chargers game with multiple missed field goals. You gave up 44 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was just so much blame to go around. From Burrow had the ball in his hands on that 2-pointer. The defense had a bunch of bad games. The kicker missed a few field goals. So it wasn't any one thing. It was everything. And because of that, the Bengals, who there's no reason they should be in the playoffs, are not in the playoffs.
Yeah, you really, did a great job outlining it. But like the fact that it seemingly was, and now the defense was like the main culprit, but there was a different thing every single week. It seemed like that. It's like, how can something go wrong every single week? Well, it did. I do blame, though, if I'm going to the fact that you let your 3 best players outside of Joe Burrow head into this season. So that's T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Trey Hendrickson. Your 3 best players head into this season, unhappy with their contracts. You are going to have dissent in the locker room. People are not going to fall in line. There's going to be weird shit that happens throughout your season when your 3 supposed leaders on the team, or what should be leaders on your football team, are just unhappy, right? Like they're not going to be rah-rah in the locker room. They're not going to be cobbling it together when things go tough. They're going to be like, I'm looking out for my own, because the organization's not looking out for me. So to me, it started at the top. When you allowed that to happen into the season, it just was never going to go well. It just was never going to go well, unfortunately. All right, my parting shot. Tyreek Hill. I don't know if you saw this. It was one of the weirdest post-season interviews I've ever seen. I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, but here's this quote. He said, "I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. It was great playing here, but at the end of the day, I got to do what's best for my career. I'm too much of a competitor to be just out there." Unhappy, didn't get 1,000 yards, obviously, was taken out late in that game. You can call it sour grapes, but it was kind of a trade request, kind of not, kind of saying he didn't want to be there. But I truly believe, whether he wants to be there or not, the Dolphins should trade him. This is they should move on from him right now. I'm going to outline why, the case why. 1, he's going to be 31 in March. He's 30 right now, obviously coming off a season where he didn't get 1,000 yards. I don't think his game has slipped that much from his peak. It obviously has when you're that big of a speed wide receiver. He is not as fast as he once was, so that's an issue. But they don't have the cap space, $300,000 in cap space next year as it stands right now. It doesn't free a ton trading Tyreek Hill, but it frees up more in the future, which they're going to need that. And they need the draft capital. They have had only 4 top 100 picks in the past 4 drafts. A big reason was that is because they traded for Tyreek Hill in the first place. The thing is, I don't think Chris Greer's, their GM's draft track record, I can't talk, is actually all that bad. He's actually been tremendous in terms of adding talent to that roster, whether it was Jalen Waddle, whether it's guys like Javon Holland. When he has top picks, usually he hits on them, all the way going back to his first pick in Laramie Tunsil. So I think he's been outstanding. But Tyreek Hill, at this point in time, he still has high value. Someone's still going to want him, whether it's someone like the Washington Commanders who want to go all in on a rookie deal quarterback, the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos. There are going to be teams with these rookie quarterbacks who are we need to spend money. We need to put pieces around our guys to go win a championship right now. And when you have that many teams in that sort of mold, Carolina Panthers as well, someone's going to give you some draft capital for them. There may even be a bidding war. And the track record of speed wide receivers that get into their 30s is just not strong. We saw it with Deshaun Jackson, never hit 1,000 yards after he turned 31. It ain't going to happen. I'm not saying Tyreek Hill is going to be like that, but he's just not going to be the guy who's touching, nearly 2,000 yards, not the elite deep for that he once was. So you're the Miami Dolphins. It's time. Trade Tyreek Hill.
And he feels like the clock's ticking. And I think that's what these comments are based on, because he pouted his way out of Kansas City because he didn't get the money he wanted. Now he's got the money, and it's the Chiefs won some Super Bowls without me. What did I do here?
Right.
And so, as you just said, you're a speedy wide receiver. He doesn't have a lot of years left where he's going to be playing super high-level football, maybe 1 or 2 more seasons, and you got to take advantage of that in an offense where that's going to work. But I think any team trading for him, you got to do your due diligence there, because you throw him in a Commander's locker room with a rookie quarterback. I don't know how well that's going to go over in a game where Tyreek Hill gets one target and then yells at Jaden Daniels on the sideline and everything blows up. So I think it will be interesting to see what teams would be interested in trying to trade for him.
Yeah, go back and listen to Tyreek's podcast if you can make it through them. I'm sure they were engaging. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to power ranking the best playoff games to watch for next weekend and reviewing the final draft order, because the top, 18 now picks are set heading into next April's draft. All right, right after this. All right, Wildcard weekend is set. It kicks off Saturday with the Chargers at Texans. I can't confirm this, but I saw a tweet about this that said that the Texans, every single wildcard game they've played in their franchise's history has been the Saturday 4:30 game. Is that true? Can you confirm this? Did you see this?
Mike, this is absolutely true. So I write up our NFL schedule every single year, and you don't know who's going to be in what slot, but I can pre-write the Texans at 4:30 Eastern on Saturday, because that's the slot where the NFL doesn't care what the viewership's going to be, because it's going to be the lowest of the week. So we're going to throw Houston in there, and we don't care who they're playing.
Incredible. And when we're going to power rank them, it's actually the lowest one by power ranking, surprisingly. Then Steelers at Baltimore Ravens is the nightcap, 8 p.m. game. Sunday, we got Broncos at Bills at 1 p.m. 4:30 p.m. we have Packers at Eagles. Sunday night is Commanders at Bucks. And then Monday night is the Vikings at Rams. Let's power rank them. What is your 1 through 6 order in terms of watchability for this wildcard weekend?
Let's see. Real quick, there is a game on Amazon. Amazon's got their first game ever. That's Ravens Steelers. So if you do not have Prime Video, you should subscribe. But everyone has Prime, right?
Yeah, but it's the fact that they're making people go to a app for a playoff game is kind of wild to me.
So
it's like they're losing. They're playing a dangerous game here. I know the cash from Amazon deals are insane. The cash from these Netflix deals are just out of this world. It's why the cap's going to an astronomical figure. And like, I can't hate, because it's kind of a rising tide. Like we get more money when the NFL makes more money. It's
trickle
just like
down
that's how
effect.
it goes. So I can't hate too much, but they're biting off a little bit, putting a playoff game, making people stream it. Grandpas around America are going to be calling up their grandkids on Saturday night being like, how the hell do I watch this game? And they're going to be like, I got to pay a subscription. I'm going to the bar. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough scene for a lot of people, but NFL, we'll see how it goes.
All right. Am I ranking all of these right now, or am I going one at a time?
You can just go all through. Go through.
All right. I'm going to fly down. My least favorite, but I'll still watch it because it's an NFL playoff game. Chargers, Texans. We do that. Yeah. We already talked about the 4:30 slot. I am interested to see Jim Harbaugh in the playoffs. I think it will be sexier if they win and get to the divisional round and play somebody that's not the Texans. Although it will be an interesting game. CJ Stroud versus Justin Herbert. Then I will go to Denver, Buffalo. I actually like all of these games. I hate having it that low because I think the Broncos have a good defense, and I think it could be a very fascinating game. And also, I just put both CBS games ranked 7th and 6th, so don't tell CBS, Renner. But I do think this is an intriguing game also. And look, Josh Allen in the playoffs, he's got to get over the hump. He's trying to get them to the Super Bowl, so got to beat the Broncos. And then we'll go Washington, Tampa Bay. I want to see Jaden Daniels in the playoffs, but look, rookie quarterbacks historically struggle in the playoffs. So I think it's going to be really interesting to watch Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. Then let's go Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Steelers have already beaten them once this season. Who knows? And then we'll go, what do I have left? Green Bay, Philadelphia, and then Minnesota, LA is my top one. I just think that if you're the Vikings, you lost 3 games all season, and you're getting stuck playing one of the teams you lost to. Like, my God, what a horrible, horrible luck they had after getting destroyed by the Lions.
Yeah, I do agree that the Vikings, that was a must win. And now they're in a tough spot. All right, my 6, I agree. Chargers, Texans. They're too defense. It's going to be a defensive game. I just don't see points being put on the scoreboard. CJ Stroud's not playing great football of late. There's just not a lot of intrigue. And for the same reason, that's why I have Steelers Ravens at 5. The Steelers are playing like shit. I just don't know how they keep up with the Ravens. I think that one could be a blowout. Commanders Bucks at 4. I put Broncos Bills at 3 because I think the Broncos are uniquely qualified. I just go to every time the Bills offense has been stifled this year. It's teams that can go player for player and play man coverage across the board. Teams that really can match up on every single one. And that's the Broncos bread and butter. So I think there could be a lower scoring affair, but a lower scoring affair that's like real good defense being played against Josh Allen. And I do think that one has some intrigue. And then I went Vikings, Rams,
upset
Packers.
special intrigue?
I'm not going to go that far because I don't trust Bo Nix in the playoff game. I saw him I've seen his mental makeup over the years, and he's maybe in like that Darnold camp of I'm not sure I trust him in crunch time sort of guy. But I do think it's intriguing in terms of the Broncos defense made it close. I got Vikings, Rams at 2, Packers, Eagles at 1. You can flip those either way. I think those are easily the 2 best games of the weekend. Just because of like all those teams are very good. I think like Packers, Eagles is truly like a heavyweight bout, even though it's a 7 seed versus a 2.
Should they put it in Brazil again?
Dude, if the link is a real field, the Packers have a chance. I'm still so salty about that because it was like, I was so excited for that game. And then you play in the shittiest field, and then Jordan Love gets hurt last play. It's like, wow, it could not have been a worse start to the season as Packers fan. But I digress. All right, let's get to the draft order though. It's set. Picks 1 through 5. Titans are your holders of the number 1 overall pick. Benjamin Albright, Denver insider-ish guy. I don't know his exact title. He said that the Titans like Cam Ward. Take that with a grain of salt. He's pretty connected. He has good takes usually. And if you're testing, and I just know evaluating these quarterbacks that I have Cam Ward head and shoulders above the rest of the quarterback class. So I fully expect him to be a Tennessee Titan. After that, Cleveland Browns at number 2, New York Giants at 3, New England Patriots at 4, Jacksonville Jaguars at 5, Raiders 6, Jets 7, Panthers 8, Saints 9, Bears 10. Which one's the most interesting to you of these top 10?
To me, the Cleveland Browns are the most interesting because I think you could make the argument that they should draft a quarterback and that it would make sense because when you have another quarterback making $46 million in fully guaranteed money, it would be nice to have a cheap quarterback who could maybe compete for the starting job or at least sit behind Watson for a year and then you get rid of him. So it would give you an out if you took one with the 2nd overall pick, and everyone on Cleveland would be on board with it. But I don't know if they'll do that because of all the money they still have committed to Deshaun Watson. So to me, it's Browns and then probably Giants.
Yeah, I do think that the Browns is the most interesting one to me too, because that's a spot number 2 overall, like we've seen in recent years. Usually there's 2 guys high enough, right? I mean, 2022 was the outlier when there was just like no one. But usually there's 2 guys, or have been of late, in terms of just like with the way passing games have gone to collegiate level and high school levels and 7-on-7 and just like more athletes playing the position and just like just the way the quarterback position has gone, like more people coveting it that highly. It feels like every year we're seeing it 1, 2, and 3 or 1, 2, multiple quarterbacks going that highly. I'm not sure if this is the year. I do think the more I watch and have watched this class, it's Cam Ward, and then I would not necessarily take a quarterback at number 2 overall. Not to say that Shedeur Sanders won't be a good NFL quarterback. I just don't know if I see a guy that's like surefire franchise heir apparent to Deshaun Watson, definitely better than like Jameis Winston, who's on the roster sort of guy. And so it's wild how, like, when you evaluate the draft, how different draft classes can be, because I think this draft class, I'm not like breaking any ground here, but I think it's like really bad. I think there's maybe 4 guys that I would definitely want. After that, you're getting guys who truly last year's class, probably the number 8 overall pick in this year's class, would have been drafted at the back end of the first round to top of the second round last year's class. Like, that's how different these classes are year on year in terms of top end talent. And so if you're the Cleveland Browns, you're like, yeah, I could draft, maybe a guy who would have been quarterback 7 a year ago at number 2 overall, or I can maybe get like a Travis Hunter or another elite pass rusher across from Myles Garrett, which would be insane for that Browns team. So I think that's kind of the inflection point of how they feel about this quarterback class. But I do think the Tennessee Titans are like over the moon with what happened today and the New England Patriots, because obvious Will Levis isn't the guy. I was a fan of him coming out. I thought
Hey, Renner, we're looking at this graphic of every time the Titans have picked first overall. 1973, John Matusak. Do you know a fun fact about John Matusak?
I don't know any facts about John Matusak.
He played Sloth in the Goonies.
Oh, wow. That is a fun fact about John Matusak.
So we'll be able to mention that. Anytime you have a draft podcast, you can mention that, because I feel like most people don't know that, and it's a weird fact.
That is a good fact. But the Tennessee Titans, I mean, I think Cam Ward's great, so we'll see how that ends up playing out, but have to think that New England Patriots fans are a little upset with how today went. Oh, we got 4 months to debate this, though, John, and we definitely will over that span. We'll be back, though. That's our show for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Thanks so much for John for joining us, as he does most Sundays. You're going to be back next Sunday? Do you know?
We'll find out. Only time will tell, Mike. We got to tell. Suspenseful.
All right. We'll be back, though, for sure. Tuesday with Pete Prisco, Kyle Long, breaking down not necessarily his power rankings, because those are kind of moot at this point in time. The only rankings that matter are how you're ranked in the playoffs and your seeding. So we'll break down something else on Tuesday. Until then, keep pushing.